Hey guys, what are Jean-Claude Van Damme's worst movies? Well, in this list, we're going to go through. This isn't my list, by the way, but I'm going to provide commentary and let you know if I agree with this or not. Breaks down all 50 of his movies. This is part one. Part two, I'll talk about number 25 to 1, but this counts down 50 to number 26. See if you agree or disagree. But supposedly, these are his worst movies. Anyway, if you like this kind of content, please help support the channel by hitting the like button, subscribing, and sharing the video. This is from filmnewsfeed.com, and I'll provide my commentary, see if I agree with this or not, but you guys of course chime in too and let me know. But let's go through this list. I think there's 50 movies here, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. 50 movies. All right, starting off, number 50, Desert Heat from 1999. Well, that I disagree with that already this list lost a lot of credibility. Like, Desert Heat is not a great movie, but honestly over the last 20 years it's pretty good. Like, if you count anything from the late 80s throughout the 90s, well, then sure, yeah, Desert Heat's not that great. But anything from like 2000 and up, it's actually pretty good. Now, that was directed by John G. Avildsen, who, of course, did Rocky and the Karate Kid. So I was really excited when I first heard about it. And funny enough, I think it's like a remake on that Kurosawa movie, Yojimbo. But funny enough, I heard like the original screening, John G. Avildsen's cut, it had like a standing ovation. But then I think Van Damme recut it or somebody recut it, and it became what it was. Now, like I said, I don't think it's number 50. Like, I don't think it's his worst movie. Definitely not his best. Honestly, I would probably put it in the top 25 though. Let's see what else we got. Derailed. See, that I agree with. I even made a whole little thing, on the channel. I joke about sometimes. I call it So Bad It's Derailed. And I have two copies of this movie, funny enough. There's a story behind that, but that I agree with. That I could definitely put, in his top 5 worst, if not the worst. So now the list is starting to get a little more credibility. What does this say about Derailed, by the way? A low-rent riff on Under Siege 2 Dark Territory. Derailed sees Van Damme as NATO officer Jacques Christophe, who finds himself navigating a terrorist takeover of a train with his family on board. Oh, it is interesting. Van Damme's real-life son, Chris Van Verenberg, or Chris Van Damme, is in this movie. And he's showing off some of his kicks. In fact, to see more Chris, check out the interviews I did with him. I did like a 4-part series of interviews, which was pretty cool. But Derailed is definitely not a good movie, and it makes Under Siege 2 Dark Territory look like Citizen Kane by comparison.
It is the truth.
Number 48, Second in Command. Yeah, that's definitely in his top 5 worst, no doubt. That movie, I don't even really remember that movie. That was one of those very forgettable movies. Number 47, We Die Young. Funny enough, this has actually been doing pretty good on Netflix lately. And this one had a limited theatrical release in the US when it came out, so I actually had pretty high expectations with it. But then when I watched it, I was like, yeah, not so good. Not so good. So I don't know if I'd make it number 47. Probably in the mid-30s at least. And he just plays a character where he's like a mute and he's like broken, and we've seen this sad, depressed character that Van Damme played in so many movies, and it's depressing because I miss the younger, charismatic, happy Van Damme movies from the 90s. Not so much this depressed, broken man, because we've seen it too much, and I like a feel-good movie at the end of the day, man. Number 46, Blackwater. Yeah, I agree with that. In fact, I'd possibly make it number 50 or even 49. This might actually be better than Derailed. So the story behind this one, there's some excitement. You got Dolph Lundgren, Van Damme teaming up again. I was pretty pumped. I remember when this came out, like my brother had visited me just shortly after this came out, and I waited to watch it. We watched it together. Long story short, we didn't even finish it, and we're like some of the biggest Van Damme fans on the planet, so that says a lot, I think. Not a good one. Number 45, In Hell. No, that In Hell is actually pretty damn good. This was actually the second or third, I think the third movie Ringo Lam directed with him. He of course did Maximum Risk and Replicant. I'm pretty sure Replicant came out before In Hell. In Hell is actually pretty good, and a lot of people will put that in his top 10. I mean, I don't know if I go that far, but In Hell is actually quite enjoyable. Number 44, Swelter. I don't even know what this is, to be honest. I never seen this. Like, I think I heard about this. And this isn't necessarily like a Van Damme movie. He just happens to be in it. So, yeah, I wouldn't really call it a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. I would call it a movie that Jean-Claude Van Damme happens to be in. I don't think he's a star or anything. Kind of curious, though, to see it. Number 43, Legionnaire. Okay, this I 100% disagree with that rating. Legionnaire is actually pretty damn good. I think at the time they were planning to get a theatrical release, but it did go straight to video. It was in that transition period where Van Damme, was the big theater guy, and then he wasn't quite getting the box office returns, and then he started going that straight to video route. I believe Sheldon Lettich actually wrote this. I got to double check. And then I actually really like the end of this movie, and it's got great production values because, again, it was supposed to be a theater quality film. So to put it at number 43 on the list, no, I don't agree. One complaint is that Van Damme doesn't do any martial arts in this, which isn't so much of a big deal now, but like in the 90s, this came out in 1998, that's kind of a big deal. He was a boxer in this movie, and then, of course, turned Legionnaire, but we didn't see any of his cool kicks. Number 42, Until Death. Okay, here's another one I was talking about where he's just kind of like dead inside and a broken man. I mean, just even like, the title. And he's like a drug-addicted detective. Yeah, I don't really care for that one. Number 41, The Hardcore. Okay, now this, of course, is a Sheldon Lettich one. And Sheldon Lettich, in my opinion, made some of the best Van Damme movies ever, right? He wrote Bloodsport. He wrote and directed Double Impact. Wrote and directed Lionheart. And then, they didn't really work together so much, like, after Double Impact. Sheldon Lettich would, of course, make another great martial arts hit with Only the Strong with Mark Dacascos, which I talked about recently quite a bit on the channel. You should check out the interviews I did with the co-writer Luis Esteban. Really cool guy. Check all those videos out, guys. But The Hardcore, funny enough, this was the one that Steven Seagal was actually going to be in, and Sheldon Lettich even talked to Steven Seagal, and they were discussing doing that film together, which would have been kind of cool. I thought it worked pretty well with Van Damme. And in that era, this is 2006, I would say the movies Sheldon made with Van Damme, The Hardcore, and then The Order, both some of Van Damme's better ones, because, again, he, I don't know, for whatever reason, he just works great with Sheldon. It's a dynamic duo, and I wish they had made more movies in the 90s. But anyway. Number 40, Alien Uprising. Okay, so again, this is not a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. This one happens to just be a movie that he's in. I think his daughter actually has a decent part in this as well. I can't really comment on it. I heard it wasn't really good, and I never checked it out. I'm curious, but honestly, with the time I have, the limited time, I'd rather just rewatch Double Impact or Lionheart than spend, an hour and a half watching Alien Uprising, to be honest. 39, The Last Mercenary. Okay, so this was like his latest film. I did a review on it. This was that Netflix one. This one had pretty good production values. French director. Van Damme always seems to work well with French directors. Like, if you look at JCVD, was amazing. And if you look at The Bouncer, phenomenal film. Last Mercenary, they kind of went that action comedy route. And it was cheesy in a lot of ways. It was entertaining. It was a lot better than a lot of stuff he did, like, over the last 10 years. I'll just put it that way. So I'd probably bump it up, at least 10 spots. I'd probably make it at least number 30 or late 20s, mid to late 20s in the ranking. But anyway, The Bouncer, number 38. Okay, so this I don't agree with. The Bouncer should really be in the top 20, possibly even the top 15. Now, this is really my favorite Van Damme movie that he's done over the last 10 years. This one has, real heart. You care about the character, but it's got some pretty cool action sequences, too, especially this, like, kidnap rescue sequence. Really well done. Just, like, one nice, long take tracking shot. You really feel like you're with him there, rescuing the girl. So yeah, that movie stuck with me. That one's memorable. That's one that you remember after you watch it, and unlike some of the other ones like Blackwater, where you just like forget right away. Bouncer definitely deserves to be better than number 38. Number 37, Double Team. Double Team is an interesting one because before Dennis Rodman ever got involved, it was actually originally called The Colony, and it was more serious. And my favorite aspect of that it was the colony that he was sent to do like some, reconnaissance type work with these other guys that were presumed dead, these other secret agents. So, and I love the escape. I love a great escape sequence in a film, whether it's a prison escape like Tango and Cash, whether it's, in this case, this is an island prison, or they did a really good job here. And yeah, this movie was cheesy. This movie was, I believe, directed by Chow Hark. I did a separate video on this, but basically Van Damme brought all these Hong Kong directors to Hollywood, like John Woo, Ringo Lam, Chow Hark, and he did 2 movies with Chow Hark. He did Double Team, and then he would later do Knockoff. But Double Team, again, over the last 20 years, it's way better than most of those films, so I would rank it higher than number 37. And Dennis Rodman, by the way, he had a little run after this. He came out with a movie called Simon Says, I think probably from the same producers, but that was about the extent of his film run. And he was really popular back then, obviously, through basketball and through his interesting personal life and like a book he came out with and other things. So, he ran that wave of like superstardom that he had back in that era for sure. Oh, and that also has an interesting fight with Mickey Rourke, and then you can tell that there's a double for some of the stuff that Van Damme's character does in the fight, which is disappointing. But if you pause it or watch it in slow-mo, you're like, that's not Van Damme, that's some Asian dude. And the fights weren't even like what you would expect from Van Damme. They're more that Hong Kong style, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but they did a pretty good job in this one. Number 37, Welcome to the Jungle. Oh, this is another one where Chris Van Damme actually had a pretty substantial part in this. And this was kind of more like a comedy. This one actually I kind of liked. And I think I would rank it higher than number 37. Oh, wait a minute. 37? Double Team's 37. Okay, so this is 36. So this article, there's actually an error. But Welcome to the Jungle is one of those ones I think it's worth checking out. It's amusing. Okay, number 35, Assassination Games. Okay, so this one is one where Van Damme and Scott Adkins actually teamed up. They teamed up in a few different films. And, for Scott Adkins, probably quite exciting, quite a dream. Like, he, like many of us, grew up watching these Van Damme movies, were inspired, and like he got to actually work alongside Van Damme. Now, the movies that he worked with Van Damme in weren't quite like what Van Damme was putting out in the 90s, but still, it's got to be an awesome experience to work with the legend. Assassination Games, I remember it had a small theatrical release. That one was forgettable. I don't even remember too much about that. I think Van Damme's daughter might have been in that one, but she was like in a coma the whole time, or most of the time, so she didn't really, have any lines or anything. All right, number 34, Kill 'Em All. He actually fights his son, Chris Van Damme, in this one, and that's actually a pretty good fight scene, but other than that, the movie's just not that good. Now, it was directed by Van Damme's friend Peter Malata, who played the Spaniard in The Quest, and then he played the guy with the spurs on his boots in Double Impact, where he kicked and slit that dude's throat. So Peter Malata is like a great martial artist. As far as like a director, well, it's hard to say because I think this is the only film he did, and I think the main problem with this one was like the editing, and it could have been better had it had like a different edit, a different cut. Number 33, Kung Fu Panda 2. So of course Van Damme would just do voiceover work in this one, and obviously it's not a Van Damme movie. It's more of, Jack Black is the main character, so not a Van Damme movie. Something he happened to be involved with, which I'm glad he was involved with something that, had a bigger budget and good production values. I mean, granted, it is an animated film, but they do a big push, more of a mainstream film. So it's always nice that Van Damme is involved in like a bigger studio mainstream film, though obviously this is not a Van Damme movie, but I'm glad he participated that, did great voiceover work. 32, Street Fighter. Yeah, this is really one that, when it came out in the theaters, I was a little disappointed. It was a little cheesy. It was a PG-13 one. Obviously, they had to market it to people, my age, and a lot of people my age at that time who weren't necessarily allowed to watch rated R movies, though we all did, and we snuck into the theaters sometimes. But it was smart for them to go that route where you could, buy these tickets legitimately. Growing up in that era, most of his fans were like these kids in high schools and stuff, and then maybe middle school and even, young adults. But, I mean, Street Fighter is, it's a campy film. It's It's interesting. I mean, I know Van Damme was like at the peak in '94. I believe he got paid more for this film than any film. I think he made like $8 million or something, which was cool. He was huge with Universal. He would do Sudden Death, and Lionheart was actually distributed by Universal, so he developed that relationship, and Hard Target. So he had a great run with Universal before he moved on to like Sony films. But yeah, speaking of Street Fighter, they did have a cool re-release of that. I don't know if it's called Steelbook or what, but a really cool release of it recently. And there's like the Bison Bucks in there, which, probably worth more than the dollar now because of inflation. But yeah, that was kind of cool. So it's one of those films that I think people appreciate more now than when it came out. So, and I'm not saying like it necessarily aged well, but I think people just appreciate it for what it was and what it is. And it was during a very unique time. I believe Benny the Jet even did the fight choreography. Let me know what you guys think about Street Fighter, by the way. What do you think about it like now? Not necessarily when it came out, but like revisiting it now. And of course, one other thing to note that Raul Julia, who played M. Bison, was literally dying, I believe, of cancer. And, he wanted to shoot this film. I forget the exact reasoning. I think his kids were fans of the games. But either way, I'm sure he got paid pretty well, and he could kind of, make some money, some extra money to provide for his family when he, was unfortunately no longer going to be there. So, a lot of interesting trivia behind this film. All right, number 31, Six Bullets. 2012, Van Damme brings some of his accumulated action movie vigor to a Taken-style story in Six Bullets. Plays a mercenary. I don't remember much about this one. It was one of those, like, forgettable ones, to be honest, man, because I was still, every Van Damme movie that came out, I would watch, and, a lot of times, disappointed because, again, like, I'm just wishing they would make something great again like they did in the 90s. But, to Van Damme's credit, it's not like any of these guys, were doing anything amazing. I mean, Steven Skull was doing a lot of straight-to-video movies in that era. I mean, Stallone was doing good, though. He was still in the theaters. He was still doing amazing with the Rocky Balboa, with the Rambo 4, with the Expendables. Even things like Bullet to the Head were pretty good, even though that underperformed at the box office. Arnold would, of course, come out with several movies back in the theater as well. But yeah, Seagal and Van Damme were basically stuck in straight-to-video land, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the movies weren't that good. So you don't need the best production values to have a good movie, but unfortunately they didn't have the production values or really like good movies. Number 30, Enemies Closer, 2013. This one I remember teaming back up with Time Cop and Sudden Death director Peter Hyams. He played a villain in this one. Van Damme always played a great villain. He had a really weird look, kind of like a crazy red hair, and I don't know, maybe he kind of reminded me of the Joker a little bit. Like that one was kind of forgettable overall. 29, Wake of Death, 2004. I need to revisit this one, man, because there's so many people that say, my brother included, that say this is actually really good. You should rewatch it. And so when I watched it, like when it came out in 2004, again, I was trying and expecting something and hoping for something more akin to what he did in the 90s, which this was not that. I'm going to watch it with fresh eyes, though, because I have heard good things, and there's a couple scenes I do remember that I liked. So his wife gets murdered in this, by the way, and I don't really like how they handled that in the film. I don't like how they handle that in a lot of films, because as an audience member, look, I get it. You kill a character, you have the guy grieve, and then boom, you get on with the revenge action, right? But for me, I want to care about the character, or like, for example, his wife who died. So I need to feel something. I need to see like a relationship established to some degree. I need to see some unique, qualities where it seems like a real person. But then I could get on board more and feel his pain and really want, like, revenge myself. Because it's almost like if I connect with the character, I'm like, oh, I want revenge too. And you could vicariously better live through, what his character does in the movie. But for me, it was just flat. It was like, You know, this just doesn't even seem like a real person. I don't give a shit. And I get it. It's an action movie. They probably just want to, you know, focus on, okay, come on, let's hurry up and kill her off, get to the action. But I think that's a missed opportunity. I think what I just explained would make for a much stronger, memorable film. Anyway, number 28, Nowhere to Run, 1993. Okay, this is the one, and I did a video breaking this down. You guys should check it out. Van Damme kind of trying to pivot and kind of transition, not just to be like this action dude, but to be more of a, you know, a dramatic and well-rounded actor, which I thought he did great in this film.
It's going to be a different type of film for me. We'll have some action, so we'll be in good shape.
Though they had enough action to satisfy the fans, you know, not karate stuff, more like brawling type action. A couple of cheesy one-liners.
I'm the parking attendant, and you bothering my customers.
But great screenwriter. I believe the guy that did Basic Instinct with Sharon Stone. And, you know, good supporting cast. Rosanna Arquette. You had Macaulay Culkin's brother, Kieran Culkin, who played the kid, played the son. And then one of the villains was the that guy from Silence with the Lambs, Buffalo Bill. He's a great actor, and he was one of the main villains in this one. So, you know, they had some good scenes together, Van Damme and that guy. I forget the dude's name off the top of my head. But Nowhere to Run overall, I'd put it easily in the top 20. Number 27, Maximum Risk. Again, easily in the top 20, probably the top 15. 1996. This was a film directed by Ringo Lam, which, you know, he's a Hong Kong director. But this is not a Hong Kong style film at all. It doesn't look like one, doesn't feel like one. But, and this again was kind of a more of a serious acting role that Van Damme did, even though it's packaged in an action film. Co-star Natasha Henstridge from Species. Yeah, so he had a quite attractive co-star in that one. And yeah, you know, some other people in this one, Stefanos Miltsakakis. He'd passed away a few years ago, but he worked with Van Damme in a lot of films like Cyborg and Lionheart, of course, Maximum Risk, Derailed, like a bunch of different films. He played the Greek fighter in The Quest. But they had a couple of good fight scenes in this one. They had like 2 really good fight scenes. And this one holds up quite well. You know, it's definitely a little bit different stylistically, and a lot of the movie takes place in France and then also in New York. So this was a good one overall. Number 26, Double Impact. Well, this I disagree with a lot because I put it in the top 5. You know, oh, just like Maximum Risk, by the way, Van Damme plays twins. So you don't really see them together in Maximum Risk, but in Double Impact, you know, Chad and Alex. This really showcased his acting talent because Chad and Alex really seem like 2 different guys. In fact, Sheldon Lettich even shared her story. Director Sheldon Lettich even shared a story where there's a guy in the gym who was talking about it and saying, "Hey, did you know Van Damme has a brother? There's 2 of them. There's this movie Double Impact." And then Sheldon was like, "No, it was the same guy." Obviously, Sheldon knows. You know, he worked with Van Damme. He directed the damn movie. But the other guy was like so convinced. But that's just testament to Van Damme really pulling off 2 completely different characters. So really good stuff.
You, of all people, should know I would never in my life wear black silk underwear.
Wait.
And that's just like a fun movie. For me, that's just one of the funnest action movies. It's like the perfect mix of martial arts and gunplay, and, you know, had a good story, nice revenge element, and, you know, obviously Van Damme fights Bolo Young at the end. This is just one of my favorite action movies, period.
Yeah! Hey, bro, we did it!
Hey guys, in part 2 of this video, we'll count down from 25 to number 1. But anyway, let me know what you think some of the worst Van Damme movies are. And then in the part 2 of the video, we'll talk about like some of his best ones.